we will be interviewing Michael, the head chef of Rosebud RSL. We will be finding out what it takes to be able to work in the kitchen and run the show. We all have sorts of questions for Michael, so I hope he straps in.
Michael, what's the toughest meal that you've ever had to prepare and make?
Oh, toughest meal. It's a lot. It's desserts. I'm not good with desserts. If I have to make desserts, Lockie, I tell you, I've got the recipe, I'm staring at it, I'm weighing, I'm double checking, I'm double weighing. Desserts for me are just hard work.
Do you watch any cooking shows on TV? And if so, do you pick up any tips, methods, tricks, any ideas from those shows?
Lockie, yeah, I do actually. I like to watch the cooking shows.
Like Huey, Coxie's?
Oh, Huey hasn't been for a while, I don't think, but I used to watch Gordon Ramsay in the early days, watch his cooking shows, James Martin and his cooking shows, things like that. And just, you do pick up tips, you pick up things along the way. Nobody in this trade can know everything. We have to, it's a learning trade all the time. There's always a different way, and with different equipment as well. That brings different recipes and different methods. So you've got to watch to say, Jude, Lockie. I've got the food channel on my Foxtel, so if I'm not watching the footy, I'm over watching that, my friend.
Now, final question is, have you ever had the honour and pleasure of cooking with spam?
Oh, I'm really happy to say no.
When you mess up, do you get to eat the food that you mistakenly made?
We can eat the food we mistakenly made. We try not to make too many mistakes, Thomas. But it also depends. If we're in the middle of a very busy service with lots of customers, then you probably don't have time to stop and eat. You've still got the next meal to do, or you've got that meal to correct. So I might pass it off into my rest of my kitchen crew, like my kitchen hands, the dishwashers. I might say, look, we've made this meal by mistake, or it's not quite right in its presentation. Would you guys like to eat it? So yes, we will. We don't like waste.
How often?
We don't make a lot of mistakes. We've got a pretty good crew. My girls and guys work very hard. They're very attentive to detail and they don't like to make mistakes.
How would you react if the great, well, I mean, still alive, but yeah, if Gordon Ramsay came into your building and watched you cook?
Oh, I'd be scared because I think he'd find a lot of issues with his technique versus mine. I'd be honoured to have somebody like that watching me thinking, well, if he's going to spend his time watching me, I must be okay. There'd be a bit of nervousness, but also once had an apprentice say to me, he said, I'm glad Gordon Ramsay and you aren't in the same kitchen. I don't think he'd survive.
Yeah, hypothetical, right? Just like something happens, like either like a food shortage or something. Would you serve 2-minute noodles to a customer?
I would serve anything to a customer that the customer ordered. So therefore, if they ordered the 2-minute noodles, I'm happy to cook them for them if that's what they want. I don't have 2-minute noodles on my menu, and there is very little chance I ever will. But if a customer comes in and says he wants 2-minute noodles, I'm happy to do that. But he can also bring the noodles in.
Cooking in high school?
I took no cooking classes in high school. I was late getting into the trade. I didn't start the trade till pretty much just after I left school. So we had, at my school in those days, we had home economics or woodwork. Mm-hmm. Boys got pushed to woodwork, girls got pushed to home eco, that's how it was. And I was terrible at woodwork, so I probably should have done cooking classes.
Who are you cooking at home?
Well, Claire, in my home, my partner does no cooking. I do the bulk of it. She refuses to cook, which is terrible because I like somebody to cook for me from time to time, Claire. Yep. So we eat out a lot. Are
your favourite Disney movies?
My favourite Disney movie, right, okay. I'm a bit of an old softie, so I'm going to run with Bambi.
Yep.
Well, it's a little bit dark, but also Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Okay. Car chase is great.
Do you like chili?
Do you like chili?
Yes.
Yeah, who doesn't?
What are your favourite?
All chili, anything hot.
Oh,
anything hot, so chili on anything. Chili on eggs, chili on potatoes, just chili, chili, chili.
How do you deal with the pressure while cooking in a kitchen?
Well, part of your training teaches you to handle the pressure, and the pressure is staying calm. You can be assertive, and I'll raise my voice if I need to. You'll be assertive and you'll give people clear direction. Whilst the pressure is always there, as the head chef, you can keep that at a level if you stay calm. So if people see that you are in control, you are handling the situation, then they feel safe in what they're doing and they will come along with you and slow the pressure rise. But some nights it does get out of control where it's just really hard, and it's just a matter of pushing through it and trying to stay focused on what you're doing.
What are some of the qualities of becoming a head chef?
You've got to be able to learn. You've got to be able to manage people. You've got to be able to do, you get various different types of people come through this trade of cooking. You get some that are very gifted and some that are just doing it as a job. And your job is to manage those people and get the best out of them. So you have to have good management skills. You have to have good time management skills, and organisation. There's a French term for your organisation when you're setting your ingredients. Charlotte, it's called mise en place. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Yep, done. So mise en place is everything. We'll go into a service where we do 600, 800 people, and if our mise en place is fine and organised, that's half of our battle. You need good maths. You need to be able to do maths, which is percentages, etc. Because when you sell your food, you have to get a percentage for it, and because the percentage will take into account your wages, your electricity, your gas, etc., etc. So you have to be able to work out that what you're selling your food versus what it cost you is at a correct percentage. English is good because we have to write menu boards, and we have to. And if I've got a funny saying I say, if they can't spell it, they can't cook it. So it's up on, and that'll come back to haunt me with my boss when he sees this video. If it goes up on the board and it's spelt wrong, it doesn't look good for the customer. You've got to be able to assimilate and identify with people too. You have many various people will come into the kitchen. I run a team of 16 plus. That's a lot of different personalities, and they all have their issues, and you've got to try and get the best out of them. So it's identifying which chef is best in which area on what particular day and what's going on in their life to make sure the customer's going to get the best experience. So there's a lot of almost psychological stuff to this as well, where you've just got to be able to determine your staff are the best. So, and you've got to be their friend, but you've also got to discipline them too and correct them when they're out of line.
If someone wanted to say, for example, wanted to become a chef or do it as a job, let's say in the future, what advice would you give them?
Learn. Don't stop learning. So when you learn something, move on and learn something else. And you might learn some Middle Eastern style food, or you might learn some French food, but also learn English food, learn African food, learn as much as you can, because the good chefs have a broad knowledge across all cuisines. So that'd be my advice, number one. Number two is be prepared to work long hours. And don't be scared of hard work. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, last and final question. What's the easiest dessert for you to make?
One somebody else makes. As I said before, I'm not good with desserts. I enjoy eating sweet things, but I don't enjoy making them. So packet chocolate mousse would be up there. I can do other things, but I just don't enjoy them. They're hard tasks.
What meals do you like?
Nick, I don't like making steak sandwiches or burgers. I make them and I make good ones, but it's not something I enjoy making. It's a bit more takeaway to me. But yeah, I'm not a fan of making burgers and steak sandwiches.
How big is your team and what are their roles?
My team is very big, JP. We've got 16 chefs and roughly 5 kitchen hands. 5 kitchen hands take care of all the dishes and all the basic cleaning up of pots and pans, etc., etc. My team consists of myself as the head chef. I've got a sous chef and a junior sous chef, which are basically second chefs, and then I've got the rest of what we call chef de parties. So they do your general stuff around the kitchen. So they'll do your basic cooking, etc., under the direction of myself and the sous chefs.
Let's just say like your some of your team and they come in and they're not having a normal good day. How do you, as the head chef, how do you try to keep the balance of enjoying their work and having fun?
Well, sometimes you have to understand that not every day is a good day. We don't always have good days. So I think sometimes if you're having a bad day and you try to fight it or you deny it, then you make the day worse. You just get them having a bad day and just try to do your work. So what I'll do, depend on if I know a bit about their personal life, I'll try have a bit of a chat to them and find out what is making them have such a bad day and what we as a business or myself can do to help them. I won't tolerate them not doing their job, but there are also times where you go, you're having a really bad day and maybe you need to go home, depending on what it is, JP. Part of my role is managing people, and managing people is helping them and getting the best out of them under any circumstances.
And what is one thing that you are very proud of in your career?
Oh, there's a number of things. I had a young apprentice who came to me at another venue many years ago, and he had a bit of a struggle, and he got there. He's now quite a good chef. Over the years, I've had many and various people in my kitchens. I've always tried to help community where I can. When I was on Phillip Island, and we had a young autistic boy who he was looking for work, and all he ever wanted to do was be a barman, believe it or not, but he found himself working in my kitchen one day a week to try help him get some skills. And I guess one of the proudest days I had, he'd worked with us for a period of time, and we decided we were going to give him a go outside of the kitchen as a glass collector and a barman without serving up the drinks, doing all the other tasks. I remember I was driving up the main street of Phillip Island and I saw him walking to work. A brand new shirt on, brand new pants, he'd had his hair done, and he was proud as punch because he was going to work not as somebody who was doing a day's work for a program, but somebody who was independent going to work. And that made me very proud that I played a part in helping him get on that path.
What is a sous chef and what do they do exactly, please?
Sous chef is literally second chef. So in charge of the kitchen when the head chef's not around. In my role, I'll have a lot of paperwork and a lot of administrative stuff to do. So my sous chef will make sure the team is performing. My sous chef will make sure any of the things that I don't have a chance to get to, he picks up on, and we'll do the day-to-day general running of a kitchen in my absence. And it just literally translates to sous second chef.
Who would you cook with, like anyone famous? Like
who would I cook with? God.
And why?
I worked with a famous chef, a man by the name of Pierre Kosher, who was a Michelin star chef, and he was fantastic to work with. He was very angry, but he was fantastic to work with, and he taught me a lot about stuff.
And also, what inspired you to become a chef in the first place?
Wow, it was a bit of an accident, really. I didn't want to be a chef when I was at school. It was the further thing from my mind. I had all these other grandiose plans of what I was going to do. And then I decided I'd had enough of school and it was time to go. And a chef's apprenticeship came up. I thought, yeah, I'll have a try at that. I liked it, but I didn't like the hours. I didn't like the nights and the weekends and grumpy old chefs yelling at me. And I sort of struggled with it a bit. So I was in and out of chefing. You know, I'd chef for a little while as an apprentice, and then I'd go do something else. And then I'd come back to chefing, then I'd go do something else. So my first 10 or 15 years as a chef were in and out of the trade. Nothing really inspired me to it was just sort of like a bit of an accident. I'll try that.
How do you stop pasta sticking together?
How do you stop pasta sticking together, TJ? Well, generally it's in the cooking process. So you need boiling water. As soon as the pasta hits the water, stir it round to get it moving, otherwise it'll start to clump. If your water's too cold or it's not hot enough, it will clump. I put a little bit of oil across the top of my pot, and some chefs will tell you that the oil will stop the pasta sticking. I'll tell you it doesn't, because oil floats on top of water. It's a little bit of science there. But what it does, it keeps the heat in the pot. So the pot stays regular. It'll keep boiling, but it'll let some of the air escape so the pasta doesn't stew. You then tip it out when the pasta's cooked. Now, the Italian chefs that I've worked with, well, as soon as it goes in and it's drained, they'll coat it with olive oil and then just let it sit. If I'm cooking at home, I'm a bit naughty. So what I'll do is I'll pull it out and I'll mix butter through it because I like the taste of butter whilst it's still hot. And that oil will prevent it. Ooh, it's yummy. Trust me. Ooh. But generally, because we do so much pasta and we have to keep it for 3 days at a time and portion it, we'll rinse it in cold water, and that helps keep it apart too, with a little bit of oil once it's rinsed and drained.
How do you stay salty when you add too much salt.
Well, okay, too much salt, that's a curse. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can add sugar, but you're still going to have in the background, you're still going to have a bit of salt, and the more sugar you add, suddenly it becomes too sweet. They do counterbalance. Depends on what the dish is. If the dish is a tomato-based sauce, you may cut that sauce again with a bit more tomato, or you might remove some of the sauce and add sauce again that isn't salted. If it's a cream base, you may add some extra cream, that'll also help take it out, or coconut cream as well if it's a curry or something like that. That's what I would do to take the salt out.
Who would you invite to dinner?
Who would I invite for dinner? Well, if I was going to pick somebody famous, Ben, I think I'd invite Jimmy Barnes, because I think he's amazing. I like cold chisel. But generally, I'd just invite my partner because I love her.
What would you cook for Jimmy Barnes if you had him?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I'd like to find out what he liked first. And maybe I'd probably cook him a nice fish and chips, I reckon. I think he'd be a fish and chips kind of guy. Yeah, I think that's what I'd do. I'd do a nice fish and chips for him.
What are your time management skills like? Are you on time?
I like to be on time. I like to be on time. Time management skills in the kitchen have to be good, Ben. You have to make sure that you're not overcooking stuff or undercooking stuff. You've got to make sure that people are coming up at the same time as you with their food. There's some people who argue that my time management is winging a prayer, but generally my time management is very good.
How do you keep all the dishes consistent, and how do you remember them all?
Oh, consistency. In a kitchen like ours, we have recipe cards. So if somebody goes to make a dish, they go to my computer or my file and they pull out the recipe card, and it's tailor-made so they can increase the quantities if they need to, if they're making 10, 20 or 50 dishes, but they get told to stick to the recipe card. And that's for not just the consistency, but also, and I'm going to get this question soon, I think dietary requirements too, because we have to make sure we don't change the ingredients in our dishes, because that can have ramifications. How to remember them all? I don't. I keep a recipe file, it's got all the recipes in it, and if worse comes to worse, if I really forget something, I Google it. It's the best cookbook in the world.
Good old Google.
Good old Google, we can't beat it.
You mentioned dietary requirements. How do you cater for dietary requirements, changing recipes? You don't change much, but how do you cater for that?
Well, there are, dietary requirements is a really big area. You've got people with diabetes 1 and diabetes 2, you've got people with allergens, you've got people who, many in various different reasons. When you're setting the recipe, when you're putting the ingredients, you have to go through every ingredient in every item. So you might say, get a pasta in. So you'll go to you'll look at the back of your pasta and you'll go, okay, it's made with egg, oil and flour and water, okay. Egg is an allergen, and so is flour. So you'll then put those in. We do what we call a matrix that has the allergens on it. So we map what is in every dish. So we can tell you by, most of the chefs will just go to their allergens matrix and go, if a person can't have nuts or can't have flour or can't have egg or fish, we can tell straight away by opening our allergens matrix and cross-checking on that. Dietary requirements are a little bit harder. It depends on the actual person's need, but most of the guys can look at a recipe and go, you'll be fine with that. It doesn't have a lot of sugar, or you'll be fine with that for FODMAP reasons, what they call, which is, done.
How do you mentioned there ingredients?
Yes.
How do you make sure that you have enough? Because you can't just duck down to your local Coles and get some more.
Well, you can.
Have you ever done that?
We've done that before, yeah. We've gone, my goodness, we're out of this. We need to go get some quickly. You have an idea of how many meals you do every week. When you're working in a place like myself, you'll get a printout every week of what meals you've done and every day. So you can go, look, on an average week, we're doing 400 Parmas. So we need 400 schnitzels. We need 400 schnitzels, we need 400 slices of ham. We need 400 slices of ham, we need 40 kilo cheese. We need yada, 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 as you go along. So you get used to what your turnover is and what each item uses. And that's part of the skill of being the head chef, is being able to work out how much each week. And you walk into your fridge or your dry store or your freezer, and you look on the shelf and go, I've still got all that pasta there. I order less next week till you find the bit that, but every now and then there's quick, can somebody slide down to Safeway, we've missed something, or Woolworths? Yeah, every now and then it happens. We're humans.
Do you have like stockists that you use, like specialists?
Yeah, we do. We use a certain place for fish. We use a certain place for dry goods, which is pasta and rice and flour, etc., and tinned tomato, etc. A certain butcher that we use that does the stuff our way at the price that is reasonable for both of us. And we use many and various suppliers for different areas.
So does the price from your stockist, does that influence the price that the customer pays?
My word, it does. If I buy a piece of meat at $10, I can't sell it for 11 or 9. So I spoke before about percentages and maths, and part of the job of a head chef is being able to work out what he sells that $10 piece of meat for. So he has to work it out, and then he goes back to the sell price and works it back to make sure he's getting the percentage.
Scrambled eggs.
Scrambled eggs.
My favourite.
Yeah.
I actually had them this morning.
You did?
I did. What's the secret to a good scrambled egg?
Butter.
Butter?
Butter. Yeah, whisk in a little. Whisk your eggs nicely and get them nice and just on fluffy. When you put them in the pan with a little bit of butter and a touch of oil, when you put that in, just put a couple of little pieces of butter in there and whisk that through as you work your egg through. Just before the egg starts to set, you whisk your butter and it gives it a nice big robust flavour.
Well, you certainly didn't scramble your answers there.
Oh, well played, sir. Well played. I got your yolk.
Hey, got him!
Thank you for watching. We sure have learned a lot about what it takes to handle the heat in the kitchen. See you next week. If you like what you've seen today, please like, comment and subscribe.